There comes a moment in your life, a moment when heaven leans over the balcony, waiting, watching, wondering, when you will finally realize that the only chains holding you back are the ones you wrapped around yourself. I came to tell somebody today, your breakthrough is not waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on you to stop doubting the masterpiece God already created. When you stop questioning your worth, when you stop shrinking your power, when you stop apologizing for your calling, Tasha, it is when the doors start opening that you thought were locked. Your breakthrough doesn't start out there, it begins in here. Self-doubt is one of the most subtle but destructive forces working against a person's growth, and the tragedy is that it rarely announces itself loudly. It doesn't show up with flashing lights or raise its voice. It creeps in quietly, posing as humility, caution, or realism, yet beneath its gentle disguise, self-doubt is a thief. It steals confidence, potential, and moments that were meant to change your life. When people talk about breakthroughs, new levels, new opportunities, new seasons, they often imagine some external miracle as the catalyst. But more often, the greatest breakthroughs are born from internal shifts, and one of the most significant shifts you will ever make is the moment you stop letting self-doubt hold the pen that writes your story. Self-doubt shapes your decisions even when you don't realize it. It convinces you to shrink when you should be stepping forward. It tells you to wait when it's your moment to move. It whispers that you're not ready when preparation is already written all over your life. The saddest part is not that people doubt themselves, it's that they often doubt themselves more than they doubt their obstacles. They believe more in what could go wrong than in what could go right. They trust their fears more than their abilities. And as long as fear has that level of authority, breakthrough will remain something they talk about, dream about, pray about, but never experience. What makes self-doubt so powerful is that it doesn't need to be true. It only needs to be believed. If you believe a lie long enough, it becomes your reality. People who could be leaders stay silent. People who could build stay hesitant. People who could inspire stay hidden. And opportunities pass by not because they weren't qualified, but because they never believed they were. It's not lack of skill that stops most people. It's lack of self-belief. And until that belief is reclaimed, breakthrough remains locked behind a door you're too afraid to touch. Self-doubt isn't just a feeling. It's a pattern. It starts early, sometimes shaped by a critical word, a painful moment, or a failure that echoed louder than it should have. Over time, those experiences calcify into assumptions. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Oh, people like me don't go that far. These assumptions grow roots. They become the lens through which you see opportunities, challenges, and even yourself. And until those roots are pulled up, they quietly dictate the limits of your life. But here's the truth that breaks that pattern. Self-doubt has no authority unless you give it permission. It is not a fact, it is a feeling. It does not define your capacity, it only distracts from it. You are not your doubt. Your doubt is simply the echo of an old story, but you have the power to write a new one. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary did so with fear in one hand and courage in the other. They broke through not because doubt disappeared, but because they refused to let doubt be the deciding voice. Imagine for a moment what you could accomplish if you stopped questioning your worth. How many ideas would you resurrect if you believed they were possible? How many opportunities would you pursue if you felt deserving of them? How many rooms would you walk into without shrinking your presence? How many prayers would you pray with boldness instead of hesitation? Breakthrough begins not when your circumstances change, but when your mindset changes. When you choose to believe in your capability more than your insecurity, you unlock parts of yourself that were always there but never accessed. Self-doubt thrives in silence. When you don't challenge it, when you don't speak back, when you don't interrupt its narrative, one of the most powerful things you can do is confront the voice of doubt with truth. Truth about your strength, your growth, your resilience, your past victories, and the evidence of everything you've survived. You've overcome challenges that once felt impossible. You've made it through days you thought would break you. Yet somehow, doubt still convinces you that you're not strong enough for what comes next. The truth says otherwise. Your history is proof that your doubt is a liar. Breakthrough requires participation. It requires agreement. You can't move into a new chapter while clinging to an old mindset. You can't embrace opportunity while holding hands with insecurity. You can't expect doors to open if you don't believe you're worth walking through them. At some point, you must choose to stop giving doubt the power to dictate your destiny. That choice won't always feel comfortable, but it will feel liberating. And with each small step you take, your confidence grows. Confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from action. The more you act, the quieter doubt becomes. Think of all the people you admire: leaders, innovators, creators, entrepreneurs, visionaries. Many of them battled self-doubt too. They questioned themselves. They had moments of fear, but they kept moving. They acted anyway. They didn't wait to feel fearless. They moved forward until confidence caught up with them. And that is what creates breakthrough action guided by belief instead of fear. When you stop doubting yourself, you give permission to every part of you that has been longing to breathe. Your gifts speak louder. Your voice grows stronger, your decisions become clearer, your purpose becomes visible. You stop living in reaction to your fears and start living in alignment with your calling. Self-doubt dims your light, belief makes it shine. And the brighter you shine, the more the world around you shifts. There is a version of you stronger, bolder, wiser, more powerful. That self-doubt is kept behind a curtain, but that version is not a fantasy. It's your true identity. And the moment you stop doubting yourself, you step into alignment with who you were always meant to be. That is where breakthrough begins. Not in the applause of others, not in the approval of people, not in external validation, but in the quiet internal decision to believe in yourself without apology. Your breakthrough is waiting for one thing: for you to stop treating doubt as if it is truth. It's waiting for you to stop shrinking your potential to fit your fear. It's waiting for you to stop assuming you are unqualified for blessings that were designed with your name on them. When you stop doubting yourself, you don't just change your mindset, you change your entire life. Because confidence is a key, and belief is a door, and breakthrough is what happens when you finally decide to walk through it. Your confidence activates opportunities that hesitation blocks, and this truth becomes clearer the moment you look back over your life and recognize all the times you missed something, not because you weren't capable, but because you hesitated. Confidence is not just a feeling, it is a form of movement. It pushes you into moments that hesitation would try to hold you back from. Confidence is a language, a presence, a signal you send to the world, and the world responds to it. When you stand tall, when you speak with certainty, when you step into a room with purpose, you shift how people see you. But even more importantly, you shift how you see yourself. And nothing in your life can rise higher than the way you see yourself. Opportunities are not just events, they are invitations. Open doors waiting for someone bold enough to walk through them. But hesitation makes you second guess whether you belong. It makes you rehearse excuses instead of possibilities. It convinces you to wait just a little longer, even when time is passing and the moment is slipping away. Hesitation doesn't stop the opportunity from existing, it simply stops you from accessing it. And that is why so many people watch life move forward without ever stepping into the fullness of their potential. Confidence is a catalyst. It turns thought into action. It transforms intention into momentum. It converts dreams into plans. When you believe in yourself, you take risks you would have otherwise avoided. You speak up when silence would have been safer. You try when failure seems possible. You move when standing still feels comfortable. Breakthrough is not reserved for the fearless, it is reserved for the willing. And confidence makes you willing to try, to move, to leap, even if you don't have a guarantee. Think of how many dreams have died in the waiting room of hesitation, not because a person lacked ability, but because they kept waiting for the perfect moment, which never came. Confidence isn't about perfection, it's about progression. It's about taking one brave step, then another, and then another, until you realize you've walked into places your old self would have never dared to enter. Every opportunity you seize builds more confidence, and every moment you hesitate feeds doubt. This is the cycle that shapes your life. Each choice either strengthens belief or strengthens fear. You don't need to have everything figured out to act with confidence. You simply need to trust that you can handle whatever comes. Confidence doesn't promise that you'll never fall. It promises that even if you fall, you'll rise again. And that is the mindset that opens doors. Because opportunities favor those who move, those who try, those who show up even when they feel uncertain. Hesitation, on the other hand, is sneaky. It pretends to be wisdom. It disguises itself as caution. It tells you to wait for more information, more clarity, more reassurance. But beneath that disguise is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of the unknown. The problem is that fear often feels like safety, so you obey it, not realizing that every time you hesitate, you reinforce the idea that you're not ready, not enough, not capable. And the more you reinforce that idea, the more it controls your decisions. Confidence breaks that cycle because it teaches you to act even while afraid. It teaches you that progress often begins with uncertainty. It teaches you that movement creates clarity, not the other way around. When you move confidently, even imperfectly, you activate possibilities that you couldn't see from a standstill. You meet people you wouldn't have met. You learn skills you wouldn't have learned. You discover strengths you didn't know you had. The very act of stepping forward expands your capacity. Doors open for confident people not because they are better, but because they are bold, because they show up, because they try, because they allow themselves to be seen. Confidence is magnetic. It attracts collaboration, respect, influence, and opportunity. People trust leaders who trust themselves. They follow those who look like they know where they're going. Even if you're still figuring it out, confidence signals that you're moving with intention. Hesitation sends the opposite message. It tells the world you're unsure, unsteady, unprepared, and people respond accordingly. They overlook you for roles. They bypass you for partnerships. They choose someone who seems more certain, even if you had twice the talent. That is the hidden cost of hesitation. It doesn't just delay your opportunities, it reroutes them to someone else. Confidence is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is standing in the truth of who you are without shrinking, apologizing or questioning your value. It is acknowledging your gifts without downplaying them. It is saying, I can do this, even when the voice of doubt is still whispering. Confidence doesn't silence fear. It simply speaks louder. And when you speak louder than your fear, opportunities start answering back. Many people wait for confidence to magically appear before they act, but confidence grows through action. You don't become confident before you step into opportunity. You become confident because you did. Every leap you take, every challenge you face, every mountain you climb strengthens something inside you. Eventually, what once intimidated you becomes routine, and what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. When you allow confidence to guide you, your decisions shift. You stop turning away from challenges and start turning toward them. You stop settling and start pursuing. You stop questioning your ability and start cultivating it. Instead of waiting to be chosen, you choose yourself. That shift alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. Confidence also influences how you recover. When confident people fail, and they bounce back faster. They don't interpret failure as a verdict. They interpret it as feedback. They adjust, refine, improve, and move forward. Hesitation, however, magnifies failure, making it feel bigger and scarier than it really is. The more you fear failure, the more you hesitate. The more you hesitate, the less opportunity you experience. It becomes a self-imposed cycle of stagnation. To break that cycle, you must train yourself to act with belief, to choose movement over fear, to say yes to opportunities you once would have talked yourself out of. Confidence is built the same way strength is, through repetition. You practice it. You practice it. You push yourself. You stretch beyond comfort. And over time, confidence becomes a habit instead of a challenge. The world is full of open doors, doors to career growth, relationships, leadership, creativity, and purpose, but only confidence turns a door into an entryway. Hesitation keeps you standing on the outside, imagining what could happen instead of experiencing what will happen. Your destiny is too important to be placed in the hands of hesitation. Confidence is the key that activates the opportunities already meant for you. When you stop hesitating, you stop living below your potential. You stop waiting for permission. You stop dimming your own light. And the moment you choose confidence, genuine, grounded confidence. You step into a life that was always possible but never activated. Your future is unlocked by belief, not doubt. Your next level is triggered by movement, not fear. And your breakthrough unfolds when confidence becomes your daily decision instead of hesitation being your constant excuse. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are ready. More ready than hesitation will ever let you admit. You can't step into purpose while questioning your identity, because purpose requires clarity, and clarity cannot grow in a mind clouded by doubt about who you are. When you don't know who you are, you move through life reacting instead of leading, shrinking instead of rising, and surviving instead of becoming. Purpose is not something you stumble into by accident. It is something you walk into with intention, conviction, and a sense of self that is rooted, stable, and unwavering. But when your identity is unclear, you spend more time fighting internal battles than pursuing external opportunities. You spend more energy trying to fit into places you were never meant to blend into, rather than stepping boldly into the places you were designed to transform. Identity is the foundation upon which purpose is built. Without a strong foundation, every step toward destiny feels unstable. Every door you approach feels intimidating. Every challenge feels like confirmation of your fears rather than evidence of your potential. Knowing who you are gives you the authority to move without apology. Questioning who you are keeps you stuck in a cycle of hesitation, insecurity, and self-sabotage. And you cannot fulfill what you were created to do while constantly wrestling with who you think you are allowed to be. When you question your identity, you question your value. And when you question your value, you settle for experiences that are beneath your calling. You tolerate environments that drain you, relationships that diminish you, and opportunities that underuse you. Doubting your identity makes you accept anything that feels comfortable, even if it contradicts your purpose. You shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You silence your voice to avoid judgment. You lower your standards to avoid being alone. And little by little, you drift further from your purpose, not because you lack talent or desire, but because you're not anchored in the truth of who you are. Purpose requires courage. It requires standing in rooms where not everyone understands you. It requires speaking truths that not everyone agrees with. It requires taking risks that not everyone supports. You cannot do any of that if your identity is unstable. People with a shaky sense of identity look to others for approval, validation, or confirmation before moving. But purpose does not wait for applause. Purpose demands that you know your own name, your own worth, and your own power, even if no one else agrees with it yet. One of the greatest obstacles to purpose is comparison. When you're not rooted in your identity, you measure yourself against other people. You assume their path must be better, their gifts must be stronger, their calling must be greater. But comparison is proof that you don't truly see the value in your own uniqueness. You forget that your purpose is custom built for your personality, your strengths, your experiences, and even your scars. You cannot compare your purpose to someone else's journey because you weren't designed to walk their road. The moment you stop questioning your identity, comparison loses its grip on your life. Identity is not shaped by opinions, it is shaped by truth. When your identity depends on people's approval, your purpose becomes hostage to their reactions. One day you feel unstoppable because someone praised you. The next day, you feel unqualified because someone criticized you. But if your identity comes from within, rooted in your values, your convictions, your gifts, your resilience, then your purpose becomes immovable. You no longer live on emotional roller coasters. You no longer shrink because someone disapproved or doubted you. The security of your identity becomes the fuel that powers your purpose. When you truly know who you are, decisions become easier. You stop wasting time in spaces that don't align with your destiny. You stop chasing opportunities that don't match your gifting. You stop accepting roles that don't honor your strengths. You begin to say no with conviction because you're already clear on your whys. A person who knows their identity is not confused about their direction. They are selective, intentional, and focused. And that focus creates opportunities that confusion would have blocked. You can't serve the world authentically while questioning your identity. Purpose is fulfilled through authenticity, through showing up fully as yourself, without filters, without masks, without pretense. But when you doubt who you are, you show up as versions of yourself that feel safe instead of true. You conform to what people expect. You mimic what seems acceptable. You play roles that earn approval but rob you of joy. And every time you betray your true identity, purpose slips further from reach. Identity also influences your resilience. People who know who they are can endure setbacks, failures, and criticism without losing their sense of direction, because they understand that setbacks don't define their identity, they refine it. But when you question who you are, failure feels like confirmation of your deepest fears. You interpret rejection as proof that you're not enough. You interpret obstacles as signs that your purpose isn't real. You collapse under pressure because you were never rooted. Purpose requires resilience, and resilience grows from identity. Your identity is your internal compass. Without it, you wander. With it, you navigate life with confidence. Even when the path is unclear, your identity keeps you steady. Even when others doubt you, your identity keeps you secure. Even when situations shift, your identity keeps you grounded. That is why purpose becomes accessible the moment you embrace your identity fully. Not the watered-down version, not the version shaped by fear, not the version edited to satisfy others, but the full, powerful, authentic version of who you truly are. The reason so many people feel disconnected from their purpose is because they are disconnected from themselves. They have internal voices that tell them they're unworthy. They have old experiences that made them question their potential. They have wounds that made them doubt their strength. And so they spend years longing for purpose while unknowingly resisting it. Purpose cannot align with a version of you that you don't believe in. Purpose waits for you to accept yourself before it fully reveals itself. Stepping into purpose requires a decision. The decision to stop questioning your identity. The decision to stop letting doubt narrate your story. The decision to stop letting fear define your limits. It requires you to reclaim your voice, your strength, your uniqueness, your brilliance. You cannot walk boldly while dragging insecurity along with you. At some point you must say, I know who I am, and then let that truth guide every step. Your purpose is not fragile. It does not disappear because you've doubted yourself. It is still there waiting, but it cannot be activated as long as you're not standing in your true identity. Once you embrace who you are without apology, without hesitation, without shrinking, something in your spirit aligns. Your decisions sharpen, your confidence rises, your direction becomes clear, and the path that once looked impossible becomes accessible. You were created with intention. Your strengths are deliberate. Your voice is necessary. Your calling is not random. But to step into all of that, you must stop questioning your identity and start walking in it. When you do, purpose stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like your natural next step. Breakthrough begins the moment you choose belief over fear, because belief moves you forward while fear freezes you in place. Fear convinces you that you must wait until you're stronger, smarter, wealthier, or more prepared. But belief whispers, start now. Belief pushes you to cross thresholds fear would rather you avoid. Breakthrough is never a coincidence. It is a decision. A decision to choose the voice that builds you rather than the voice that breaks you. A decision to trust potential over limitation. A decision to say, I may not have everything figured out, but I'm moving anyway. Fear demands certainty before movement. Belief creates movement even without certainty. That is why breakthrough begins at the moment belief takes the lead. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives disguised as logic. It tells you the timing isn't right. It convinces you to gather just a little more information. It displays a highlight reel of everything that could go wrong and hides everything that could go right. Fear exaggerates your weaknesses and shrinks your strengths. It inflates the risks and minimizes the rewards. If you listen long enough, fear becomes so familiar that you mistake it for wisdom. Yet nothing could be farther from the truth. Wisdom prepares you. Fear paralyzes you. Wisdom guides you forward, fear keeps you stuck, and as long as fear is in control, breakthrough is delayed. Belief, however, has a different posture. Belief doesn't deny reality, it transforms how you respond to it. Belief sees the same obstacles fear does, but interprets them differently. To fear, obstacles mean stop. To belief, obstacles mean grow. Belief tells you that you are capable of learning what you don't know. It reminds you of the times you survived what you thought would break you. It strengthens the parts of you that have been weakened by past disappointments. Belief does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees motion, and motion is what activates breakthrough. Every breakthrough in history, personal or global, started with someone choosing to believe in possibility before it was visible. Breakthrough requires faith in something you cannot yet touch or measure. It requires a willingness to trust the unseen potential within you over the visible challenges around you. Belief expands your vision. Fear narrows it. When you believe, you see options where fear sees dead ends. You see opportunity where fear sees risk. You see growth where fear sees failure. The power of belief lies in its ability to unlock perspectives fear keeps hidden. Fear thrives in uncertainty, and life is full of uncertainty. That is why there will always be reasons to hesitate, always reasons to delay, always reasons to doubt. The conditions will never be perfect. The timing will never feel ideal. You will always wish you had a little more experience, a little more money, a little more confidence. If you wait until fear leaves, you will spend your life waiting. Breakthrough doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who move while afraid, those who choose belief in the presence of fear, not the absence of it. Belief generates courage, and courage unlocks action. Action is the soil where breakthrough grows. Too many people think breakthroughs happen suddenly, but they often happen subtly, in the quiet shift of your mindset, in the small choice to send the email, in the bold decision to say yes, in the willingness to walk away from what no longer serves you, in the discipline to show up again and again. Every action rooted in belief is a seed planted toward your future. Fear never plants. Belief plants, nurtures, protects, and eventually produces a harvest. Often the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not talent, opportunity, or resources. It is belief. When you believe you're capable, you try. When you believe you're worthy, you persist. When you believe your life has purpose, you endure. People rarely fail because they're not equipped. They fail because they never fully commit. And they never commit because fear convinces them the risk is too high. But belief shifts your perspective. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Belief asks, what if this works? That shift alone can change the trajectory of your life. Breakthrough requires a mindset that is willing to bet on itself. When you choose belief over fear, you give yourself permission to explore, experiment, and evolve. You open doors that fear would have left locked. You develop resilience that fear would have prevented. You discover talents that fear would have buried. You connect with people fear would have shielded you from. Belief engages your future. Fear traps you in your past. Belief also influences your identity. When you choose belief, you align with the strongest version of yourself, the part that dreams, creates, leads, and builds. Fear aligns you with the most limited version of yourself, the part that doubts, hesitates, avoids, and retreats. Your breakthrough depends on which version you empower. Every time you choose belief, you strengthen your identity. Every time you choose fear, you weaken it. Over time, your choices write your story. Here is the truth many avoid. If fear is your guide, you will always live beneath your potential. Fear leads to mediocrity, regret, and stagnation. Fear forces you into patterns of self-protection rather than self-expansion. Fear keeps your life small because it keeps your vision small. You cannot build a big life while following a small mindset. Belief is expansive. Fear is restrictive. Belief liberates. Fear confines. And breakthrough cannot occur in confinement. The strongest people are not those who never feel fear. They are those who refuse to let fear make the final decision. They feel it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. They use fear as data, not direction. They let belief dictate their next step, not fear's warnings. Over time, they realize fear exaggerates consequences and underestimates capability. Belief, on the other hand, does the opposite. It highlights possibility and strengthens capability. Choosing belief over fear transforms your energy. When you believe, you carry yourself differently, you speak differently, you show up differently. People can sense belief. They are drawn to it. They trust it. They follow it. Opportunities respond to it. Fear sends a signal of uncertainty. Belief sends a signal of readiness. And the world opens doors for those who look ready. Breakthrough also demands risk. Every leap of growth involves uncertainty. Belief gives you the courage to take that leap. Fear convinces you to hold on to the known even when the known is draining you. Fear clings to comfort. Belief embraces challenge. Comfort zones are where potential goes to die. Purpose requires discomfort. Growth requires stretching. Breakthrough requires stepping into unfamiliar territory. Belief equips you for that journey. There will always be two voices battling inside you, the voice of fear and the voice of belief. One says, stop. The other says, go. One says, you can't. The other says, try anyway. One says, stay safe. The other says, step forward. Your breakthrough depends on which voice you choose to trust. Fear is loud, but belief is powerful. Fear limits you, but belief unleashes you. Fear protects your wounds, but belief protects your future. The moment you choose belief over fear, even once, you initiate a shift. A shift in your mindset, your energy, your decisions, your direction. Every breakthrough begins with that single internal decision. And once belief takes root, fear loses its authority. Breakthrough is not about what happens around you. It is about what happens within you. When you choose belief, you activate possibilities that were always waiting for your yes. You open doors that fear kept shut. You ignite strength that fear kept dormant, and your life begins to align with the greatness that has always been inside you, waiting for belief to lead the way. Transformation starts within before it shows up around you, because every external change begins as an internal decision, a quiet shift, a subtle awakening in your mindset, your beliefs, and your self-perception. The world often teaches you to chase outward success, titles, accomplishments, recognition, validation, as if those things alone can reshape your life. But real transformation doesn't begin with what you achieve. It begins with who you become. Your mindset precedes your movement. Your beliefs shape your behavior. Your internal narrative determines your external reality. Until you change the world inside you, you will keep repeating the same patterns outside you, no matter how hard you work or how much you desire change. People often assume they need a new environment, new relationships, new opportunities, or new circumstances in order to transform. But even if you switch your environment, if your inner world remains the same, if you carry the same fears, insecurities, doubts, habits, and limiting beliefs, you will recreate the same results in different places. You can move to a new city, get a new job, or enter a new relationship, but if you don't shift something internally, your past will follow you. You cannot outrun yourself. True transformation requires confronting the beliefs, wounds, and internal blockages that have shaped your decisions up to this point. The most powerful breakthroughs don't happen when something around you changes, but when something within you refuses to stay the same, when your spirit rises and says, I cannot continue this way. When your mind opens to a new way of thinking, when your heart releases old hurts that have been weighing you down, when your self-perception expands beyond your fears, that inner shift becomes the catalyst for external elevation. Nothing around you can change sustainably until something inside you transforms authentically. Transformation is an inside-out process, not an outside-in reward. It begins with awareness, becoming conscious of your patterns, your triggers, your strengths, and your weaknesses. Awareness is the first step because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. Many people stay stuck because they keep reacting to life without ever examining the internal beliefs that drive those reactions. They blame circumstances when the real issue is mindset. They blame people when the real issue is boundaries. They blame opportunities when the real issue is self-belief. When you start looking inward instead of outward, you begin to reclaim your power. Inner transformation requires honesty, brutal honesty. Honesty about the ways you've held yourself back. Honesty about the places where fear has been louder than purpose. Honesty about the habits that have kept you stagnant. Honesty about the voices you've allowed to influence you. Honesty about the excuses you've clung to. That level of honesty can feel uncomfortable, but transformation cannot grow in denial. It grows in truth. And once you confront your truth, you unlock the ability to rewrite it. The moment you begin to shift internally, your external world starts responding. People who once intimidated you lose their power. Opportunities that once felt overwhelming begin to feel attainable. Challenges that once broke you begin to strengthen you. What changed? Not the world, you changed. Your mindset changed. Your perspective changed. Your internal boundaries changed. And because of that, your decisions changed. Different decisions lead to different outcomes. That's how transformation manifests outwardly. Every great achievement begins as an internal alignment. Athletes visualize winning long before they step onto the field. Leaders cultivate confidence long before they speak publicly. Entrepreneurs see possibilities long before they launch anything. They win internally before they win externally. Transformation starts in the mind and flows to the actions, and then the world catches up. Your internal world shapes your external behavior. If you believe you're unworthy, you will tolerate mistreatment. If you believe you're incapable, you won't take risks. If you believe you're powerless, you won't assert yourself. But if you believe you're gifted, you will strengthen those gifts. If you believe you're deserving, you will raise your standards. If you believe you're capable, you will pursue greater opportunities. That is why transformation is internal first, because your beliefs shape your boundaries, your decisions, your habits, and your direction. Transformation is also emotional. Many people try to change their lives without healing their hearts. They carry old wounds, unprocessed trauma, unresolved anger, and silent grief. These emotional weights influence their choices, whether they realize it or not. When your heart is heavy, your steps become slow. When your emotions are unhealed, your future becomes blurred. Inner healing is essential for outer growth. The moment you start releasing emotional burdens, you create space for better things to enter your life. Transformation demands self-discipline. Not punishment, but discipline. Discipline to rewire your habits. Discipline to replace negative thoughts with empowering ones. Discipline to practice new behaviors until they feel natural. Discipline to let go of patterns that no longer serve your future. And discipline is always an internal decision. No one can build discipline for you. It is something you choose, nurture, and strengthen from within. The change you want to see around you is waiting for the change you're willing to create within you. You want better relationships. Start by transforming how you show up in relationships. You want more success. Start by transforming your work ethic, your focus, and your confidence. You want peace. Start by transforming your inner dialogue and emotional responses. The external result always reflects the internal commitment. Transformation also requires a shift in identity. If you keep seeing yourself as the same person, you will keep living the same life. You cannot step into a higher version of yourself while clinging to outdated self-beliefs. You must expand your identity. You must see yourself as someone capable of more. Identity is the birthplace of transformation. Until you redefine who you are, you cannot redefine what you do. Another powerful truth is this: that transformation is not a single moment. It is a process, a layered, evolving, unfolding process. It involves daily choices, small shifts, repeated commitments, and constant renewal. It may start with a spark, but it grows through consistency. The internal transformation shapes the external results over time. At first, you may not see outward change, but the internal change is building the foundation. Eventually, the external world catches up with the internal growth. Transformation requires courage. Courage to break old patterns. Courage to confront uncomfortable truths. Courage to let go of people who no longer align with your growth. Courage to lose the version of yourself that felt familiar but limited. Courage to step into the unknown. Courage to trust the process even when the results aren't visible yet. That courage can only come from within. No amount of external motivation can replace internal conviction. When your internal world transforms, your beliefs, your identity, your habits, your emotional state, your boundaries, your entire life begins to shift. Relationships improve, opportunities appear, confidence increases, peace deepens, purpose clarifies. You begin to attract what matches your new frequency. You stop repeating old cycles. You start rising into new levels. Everything you desire in life is connected to who you are becoming within. The external world reflects your internal evolution. As you grow internally, your environment, your choices, your connections, and your opportunities begin to align with the upgraded version of you. Transformation starts within because you are the author of your life. Change your mind and you change your path. Change your heart and you change your relationships. Change your beliefs and you change your outcomes. Change your identity and you change your destiny. The life you want begins with the person you choose to become. As we arrive at the end of this message, I want you to pause, not with the heaviness of an ending, but with the fire of a beginning, because everything you've heard, everything you've reflected on, everything that's stirred in your spirit throughout this speech was never meant to entertain you. It was meant to awaken you. It was meant to shake the dust off the dreams you buried. It was meant to crack open the doors you thought were sealed shut. It was meant to remind you that your breakthrough has never been a matter of chance. It has always been a matter of choice. And that choice begins with you believing again. All along, the journey has pointed to one truth: the greatest battle you will ever fight is not against circumstances, not against people, not against the economy, not against your past. The greatest battle is the one between who you think you are and who you were born to be. And the bridge between those two versions of you is belief. Pure, fierce, unshakable belief. Belief that your life was designed with intention. Belief that you are worthy of rising. Belief that your voice matters, your gifts matter, your presence matters. Belief that failure was not a verdict but a lesson. Belief that fear is not a master but a moment. Belief that self-doubt only has as much power as you continue to surrender to it. Everything in your life begins to shift the moment you decide that doubting yourself is too expensive. It costs too much time, too much peace, too much destiny. It delays opportunities that were assigned to your name. It keeps you walking small in rooms where you were meant to stand bold. Your breakthrough isn't delayed because the world isn't ready. It's delayed because you haven't fully said yes to yourself. The yes that changes everything is not someone else's approval, not someone else's validation, not someone else's applause. It's the yes you whisper to your own soul that says, I am enough, I am capable, I am called, and I am moving forward. You have spent too many years questioning what God has already confirmed. Too many moments replaying what went wrong instead of preparing for what can go right. Too much energy giving fear a seat at the table when courage has been waiting outside the door. Your breakthrough begins when you stop allowing doubt to speak louder than destiny. It begins when you stop apologizing for being gifted, when you stop negotiating your worth, when you stop shrinking so others can feel comfortable. You were never meant to dim, you were born to illuminate, and the world is waiting for the brightness you keep hiding. So as you walk away from this message, I want you to carry a new posture, shoulders back, head lifted, spirit open. Walk like someone who has decided to stop second-guessing their purpose. Walk like someone who has decided that their past will not hijack their future. Walk like someone who knows that breakthrough doesn't come to the hesitant. It comes to the bold. It comes to the aligned. It comes to the one who chooses belief, even when the path is unclear. You may not see all the steps, but take the first one anyway. You may not have every answer, but move with what you know. You may feel fear rising, but let courage rise higher. Transformation doesn't wait for comfort. It waits for movement. Let this be the moment you reclaim your power. Let this be the moment you silence the voice of doubt that has lived inside you for too long. Let this be the moment you stop disqualifying yourself from opportunities that were created with your fingerprints in mind. Let this be the moment you realize that believing in yourself is not arrogance. It is alignment with purpose, and alignment is the birthplace of breakthrough. Your next chapter is not written by fear. It is written by faith, by courage, by decision, by belief. And when you finally stop doubting who you are, you give permission for the fullness of your destiny to unfold. You give your dreams room to breathe. You give your purpose room to run. You give your future permission to arrive. So rise up, step forward, stand firm. And believe, truly believe, that everything you've been reaching for is already reaching back. Your breakthrough begins not tomorrow, not someday, not when you feel ready. Your breakthrough begins the moment you stop doubting yourself. And that moment is now.